Hi guys. The other night I uploaded some videos, and I took them down yesterday because I wasn't finished with what the Lord had given, and so I just took them down. I just took them down because I just needed to add more to that. I was reading today. I was reading Matthew. Okay, Matthew 23. Just such clarity that I just want to almost just vomit. Seriously, is how we've been taught through the years. And this Matthew 23 is talking to, it says Pharisees. It's the teachers. It's the pastors. It's the instructors. Anybody who has taught the Word of God, the head of the churches, all that. And he's saying, shame on you. You know, you have, what is it that he says here? That he calls them snakes and vipers. How will you escape being condemned to hell? Therefore I'm sending you prophets and sages and teachers. Some of them you will kill and crucify, but others you will flog in your synagogues and pursue from town to town. This is not just, okay, Israel. It's not just Jerusalem. It's just not Jews, okay? This is any teacher who teaches others the Word of God. Because he's saying, you don't know it. You don't know it. You're condemning them. So, he says, and so upon you will come all the righteous blood that has been shed on earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, who you murdered between the temple and the altar. There's your clue right there. Okay, between the temple and the altar. Do you know what that is? We're the temple. The heart's the temple. And inside here is the temple. Okay, and it's what we learn. Okay, and so what he's saying is that you're teaching them, that your teaching is full of it's hypocrites. Okay, and he's saying that you're killing them. You have stained them between what they're receiving inside, which is our temple, okay, and to God's altar, to God's throne, to God, okay. What we're being taught is wrong, and this whole thing is about that. It's just not to the Jews and the Pharisees then. You have to understand, that is to everybody now. And he's saying, look, you know what you're doing? Do you know what you're doing? You know what you're doing to these people? I'm going to tell you something. Okay? Now, in the videos I just took down, and I'd mentioned this before, that I think that whatever happens, happens in heaven. I think that nuclear site, blowing up, that explosion thing, I think it's in heaven. Okay? And I think it's heaven goes before earth does, because he creates a new heaven and a new earth. Okay? But all through the way he states it, heaven is always first, and that is your shaking of the heavens. Okay, that's what that is. And I believe that the enemy gets up there, takes a ride up there. The enemy gets up there, okay, and he comes through like a back door. But whatever happens, that's the trap. That's the Judah trap. He's gonna get them in there, and they're gonna think they're in the Holy of Holies, and they're gonna think that they've got his silver and gold. Okay, but it's a trap. It's a trap. And when he gets us to our place, it's gonna be like the Big Bang. Well, I'm gonna say the Big Bang, the day of creation all over again. You know what I'm saying? That's what I believe he's going to do. Now, Today I'm reading Matthew. Matthew pretty well says that. Bet you didn't know that. It's right there in Matthew. It's right there. He is in Matthew again, Matthew 23, the 7 woes to the teachers of the law and the Pharisees. Same thing. It's the pastors and everybody and the teachers. It's the seven woes. Okay, relates to the 7 fallen, to the 7 churches, 7 archangels, 7 seals. When he talks about that, he's talking to the same group. They're the same group. Same. Okay. He's talking about, in here, if I wish I didn't have it ready. I've got it pulled up and I'll get back to it. But he's talking about the enemy coming in, okay? And it's when he's, it's the parable of the wedding banquet, okay? Which just happens to be Matthew 22, right? Jesus spoke to them again in parables, saying, "The king of heaven is like a king who prepared a wedding banquet for his son. He sent his servants to those who had been invited to the banquet to tell them to come, but they refused to come." Okay, so his servants are his angels. Okay, so at the beginning, his servants are his angels. Now, when I say this too, and it's also the Lord's Spirit, okay, because that Spirit of the Lord is always upon his prophets and his scribes, okay? It's his Spirit, but it's on them, but you can look at it as him, because it's really what it is. So he sent his servants out, tell those who've been invited, come, I prepared this dinner, my oxen and my fatted cattle have been butchered and everything is ready. Come to the wedding banquet. But they paid no attention and went off. One to his field and another to his business. One to his field and another to his business. The rest seized his servants, mistreated them, and killed them. His servants are angels, okay? And again, a lot of them were themselves bought and sold, okay, into slavery. Because a lot of them were in specific people, okay? It's the spirits. It's the sevenfold spirits, and they're angelic, and they're all of the Lord. They're all of Him, okay? And His Spirit went into specific people in the Bible that the stories are about, written. All right, and so when He says this, that they were, mistreated and killed, that's what He's talking about. And it says the king was enraged, so he sent his army and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. Okay? So he said to his servant, "The wedding banquet is ready, but those I invited did not deserve to come. So go to the street corners and invite the banquet to anyone you find." So the servants went out to the streets and gathered all the people they could find, the bad as well as the good, and the wedding hall was filled with guests. When the king came in to see the guest, he noticed a man there who was not wearing wedding clothes. Got those garments on, okay? He asked, "How did you get in here without wedding clothes, friend?" The man was speechless. The king told his attendants, "Tie him hand and foot and throw him outside into the darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." Hands and feet. Tie him hand and foot. Tie him hand and foot. Okay? And throw him outside into the darkness. Where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth, for many invited, but few are chosen. Okay. That throwing out into that darkness, because it's coming from heaven. Okay, because everybody's up in heaven. That's where the banquet is. Everybody's up in heaven. And that person he's talking about is the enemy that he's talking about. Okay, that is going to be thrown out from there. But that is not, it's at the end, near the end. It's not as we think it is. And I'll get back to it. I just can't see it well enough. I'll get back to this, but first I have to get this out. I want to talk about Joseph, because there's your key. It's Moses and Joseph. It's really Joseph walking up the pyramid and Moses coming down the pyramid. Okay? Now, whenever in the Bible, I told you that God sends his angels, his servants, to other sides to work. Okay? He does. Whenever he switches somebody's name in the Bible, okay? Abraham was born of wealth. Okay? And he ended up being a tent dweller. I mean, he still had wealth, but I mean, he went to the desert. But what happened? Remember when the water came gushing down, and he was laying on his stomach inside in the water, and then that's when God spoke to him. And then he had to go out to the wilderness. Through the whole Bible, this water in this wilderness is huge, because it's huge. When Joseph, okay, this is for those of you who when I say about the beast, how it's all one, it's Jesus, it's from these sevenfold spirits, and how that the one that has fallen, that we think is bad, there's a darkness here that is bad, I will tell you. And then there's that spirit of Satan that God put out there to get his thing done, okay? But I'm talking about the angel that fell, okay? The first one that fell, that they're doing a job. Now, however good, bad, ugly it is, they're doing a job. You know how you know this? Because the same wording in Joseph. Same. Brothers, remember his dreams? Remember when he's telling his brother his dreams? Okay? And his brothers are not... Each brother was holding a sheaf of wheat. Okay? And all their sheaves fell. Joseph's was standing, so all of their wheat bowed to Joseph's wheat. Okay? And then his brothers were at the table, and they were all sitting. They were telling him, "Oh yeah, he's had these dreams, and we're going to bow down to his, sheaves of wheat." And so Joseph's going to listen to the dreams, and then he says another one. He says, "Well, tell me." He says, "I don't want to." And he says, "Well, no, tell us what it is." He said, "Well, I saw the sun and the sun and the moon and the stars paying homage to me." And so Joseph says, "Oh, what? So am I the son?" He's telling you exactly what this is about. Jacob says to Joseph, "Well, so what you're saying is, me, your father, is the sun, and your mother's the moon, and your brothers are the 11 stars." Right there, he's telling you what it is. Okay? Now, his brothers, he saw himself over them, okay? And he saw them paying homage to them, coming to them, bowing to them, so to speak. Well, Joseph was, he was good. He was good. He was just repeating what God had shown him, okay? So his brothers, from envy and jealousy, okay, because Joseph was the most favored. He was the favored son. He was the one who had the coat of many colors. He was the one who Jacob was going to make his heir to everything. It was special. And his brothers, the first 10 brothers, they were jealous. They were absolutely jealous. That was their birthright. So it all has to do with their mother, which mother this came from. All has to do with the stuff. So, now, what's really important about this is understanding when the brothers were talking about in their mind what they assume, what they couldn't understand, the realm of it. They were looking at it from an earthly, fleshly, jealousy, envious, and insulting way, okay, of what he was saying. It's much what same things that why Lucifer was thrown out of heaven. Okay, same wording. So you gotta watch those wording. Same wording. So they put him in. The whole key to this is the well. They threw him in a well, water. Threw him in a crevice in the ground, in a well, water. So then his brothers sold him into slavery. So he had to go from that well in the water through the desert, through the wilderness. Now he's going to, Egypt. So he starts off as a slave. Then they see, never one time does he ever bow down to another god or other gods. He always stays faithful to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Always, 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 always. But through time, he gets second in charge. I mean, Egypt was the whole world then, right? So now Joseph is second in charge. Second. Now, looks like an Egyptian now. They changed his name. They've given him a pagan name. Okay? He wears the makeup. He's got a pagan wife. He's, Egyptian wife. He's, it's just in charge of it all. I mean, he's just the enemy's, Pharaoh's right-hand man. He's got his wig on. He's in disguise, but underneath he's still Joseph. He's still Joseph. He thinks about that day when he'll meet his brothers, what he's going to say and what he's going to do, but he couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. So, in the end, he knew what to do. He knew what to do in order to save the people of Egypt and the other, around, how to save them for the famine, through the famine of doing exactly what God told him to do. The years of plenty and the years of lack. So underneath this, all this garb, it's still Joseph. So what happens? Here comes his brothers in. And his brothers, they come and he's got to decide. He's going to defeat him or not, right? But he does. At the end, his brothers and his father, what did they do? They bow down. They pay homage to him. Okay? What did he do? When he took off that wig, when he took off all that pagan garb, all that Egyptian makeup, all of that, he was still Joseph. And Joseph blessed his grandchildren. Okay? There was no disaster. There was no destruction. There was no, anything. Then, this is the story. This is the story. Okay? Whether you want to believe it or not. It's the same wording. It's the same wording. Now, this water and this wilderness makes the Bible, I'm sorry, my mouth's so dry. It makes the Bible just so unbelievable. Now, 400 years, those that he sent to the wilderness, because the wilderness is good. the tent dwellers are good, really, because that's, I mean, they're good. Okay, 'cause that's where God. Well, I'll get into that later. So now, 400 years later, well, they've been in the city a long time now. Okay, so now God's gonna have to. He's gonna have to take them back to the wilderness now. Okay, he has Moses. Now, Moses, yeah, he was born slave. Okay, see, Joseph was not born a slave. He was born wealthy, but he became a slave, very poor, then very wealthy. But now he has all of the, God needed all of the people there. That's where they grew. That's where they expanded. But they become under slavery. They became under bondage there. Okay? Because they were in Egypt. All right? And so they were of the world. And they were worldly. Even though they were slaves, they became worldly. They became in a pagan world. All right? And so they did not hold to the teachings that Abraham passed on down the line. So now we have Moses. Moses is born. He's born a slave. But what happens? They put him in a basket down the river in the water because he's got to pass through the water before he gets to the thing. This is how it always is. So now Moses is in his little basket, and now he's going, and Pharaoh's sister pulls him out, loves him like his own, right? No name change. Kept his name, right? That's a huge clue. Kept his name. So Moses grows up as a prince, right? So Moses grew up in disguise. He didn't know any better. He grew up, but he never longed for those material things, those earthly things, those worldly things. You know, he just didn't have that. But it was all in his heart, okay? So he grew up wearing these disguises, and I mean this pagan, Egyptian look. So that was ripped, from him, torn off of him, and there he was. There he was, an Israelite, a slave. Now, God had to he had to get them out of that. All right. So it's here we have Joseph going up the pyramid steps. Okay. Then we have this, and then now we have Moses, and Moses is going down. Okay, because he's going down the opposite way, right? Now he's going from freedom, from a throne, to which he would have had, to being a slave, really to being a shepherd, to going to the wilderness. All right. Now, when he led God, because God had to save them now, he had to get all that world off of them. Okay, it was done for a reason, but now he had to get that world off of them. All right. And he knew it would be a tough job because 400 years. So, what did they do? They had to pass through the Red Sea. Okay, they had to pass over that water. They had to pass over that water. Into the wilderness. Because see, it's in the wilderness that we see God's miracles. It's in the wilderness we fall to our knees. It's in the wilderness that we call to him. It's in the wilderness that we reconcile to him. It's in the wilderness that we see how magnificent he is. And it is a time of testing. And so once you cross that water, okay, it's that cleansing, okay? But now you have to go through the testing of it. It's the heart. It's the weeding of it, really. So, and it's to prepare you for whatever role he has for you. Okay. So it's always when Elijah went through the water, when Joshua, when they, went over the Jordan, all these are times of a cleansing, or of a it's a baptism. It is, but it's you know you're going to be in trouble after you go through that water. Basically, well, something's coming now, because I know how this story goes. When anybody goes through and passes through water, and now they got to go to that wilderness, bad things happen. They're not really. And this is a new Christian. We always tell people, when you're new in Christ, oh, watch out, boy, enemy's going to come after you. It's God's testing you. Okay, that's what it is. God's testing you, because that's how he has to get that last bit of dross out of it. Okay, so it's basically a baptism, and then he's going to put you out there and make you put your money where your mouth is. But now he's going to show you him. He's going to show you. Okay, he has to allow this testing and this wilderness, so you can see his glory. Okay, so he can show you, he can feed you, and he can give you water, and he can do all these miraculous things. And that's what the wilderness is. That's what the testing is. That's what the trials are. That's what they are. So we have the Israelites. Now they're going to cross the Red Sea and into the desert. Because see, they were there 400 years. He's got a lot of crap to get off of them. Okay, he does. Because others came in there with them. They had the yeast in there with them. Okay, and he had to, before any could cross over into the promised land, he had to get all of the yuck off of them all. Okay, and he knew that in that crowd was those stragglers, was the yeast that was infecting his others. Okay, they were this, little just stinky. They were the shit disturbers. I don't even know how else to put that. Okay, because that's really what it was. They got everybody riled. Okay, and they're the ones that put those. Well, did you know? Did you hear? Well, I'm not going to say whose name it was, but did you know? You know how things start like that? It's the gossipers. Then it's when things don't happen. It's like, I told you, we shouldn't have followed him. I knew we shouldn't have done that. See, the naysayers. Okay, think how many there were in that group. So God, he knows who's there. You got to get him out. He can't let anything like that into the promised land. So then, when they did what they did with the golden calf, and we already talked about all that, then they had to stay out there longer, okay, because that dross was still out there. There was only 20 of the original elders, okay, were alive and got to cross over into the promised land. Only 20. Well, it's 10 fingers and 10 toes. They're totally part of God's army. And you know what? You can look at it as the spirit in them. Okay. Every single pattern God has is exact and precise. Look at these patterns throughout the entire Bible. Okay? Moses, he absolutely had the Spirit of the Lord in him. Okay, I'll tell you, absolutely. Moses could not leave the mountain. That's why he couldn't go over there. Okay? He could not leave that mountain because, really? The waters, okay, our waters, when the flood happened, and right before the flood, okay, when God put the main 7 into the chambers under the earth, chambers, okay, in the earth, and then when the flood happened, the earth split apart and went into the 7 continents, okay? Now, those you can look at as kind of almost the mountains, okay? But these creases, though, so you have the mountains, but you also have these creases. The creases is what filled the water, filled them, okay? So they went on top. So what I'm trying to say is the ocean. So when you the seas and the water and the ocean, that those you can look at too as valleys, okay? I mean, there's multiple meanings, layers here, but I mean, those are also valleys, you know, in terms. But under the waters, it's really under the waters. Under the waters is really where some chambers are. Okay? So it's almost like they have to cross over one to get to the other one. I don't totally understand that. Okay? I really don't. I don't understand that. But I do know the waters fill those crescents and those crevices. And this all has to do with the nations, the kingdoms, the nations that it's his angels that he sent at the beginning, okay? And they still control these nations, these kingdoms, these lands, okay? They still control these lands, all right? And so every main ocean is controlled by one. And this water going from the water into the land, it all has something to do with that. Okay, it all has something. These are patterns, but it all has something to do with that. Okay. The bones. Moses' bones could not go past that point. I told you they all have their fault lines, or all the grid lines and the fault lines. They're all their dividers. Okay, they all have divider lines that they have to stay within. All right. Well, Moses, he I mean, he looked just like everybody else, but his spirit was different. You know what I'm saying? His spirit was different. Spirit was different. And that spirit that he had in him, that's where that had to stay. The bones of that spirit had to stay in that area, in that place. It could not go past that line. Okay? Could not go past that line. This is why Jacob said, oh, I'm not going to say they couldn't. See, I think you have there's boundaries. There's boundaries. That's all I'm saying. There's boundaries. And I'm sure it's not that they can't go, but I mean, as far as where those bones can stay, the bones themselves have to stay in their land. Okay, have to stay in their land. And this is why Jacob was so, take my bones to Canaan. Bury me in Canaan. You know, even Joseph to the Pharaoh, I have to go home and bury my father to Canaan. And the Pharaoh understood that. He didn't even question it. It was like, yes, go bury your father. See, they knew. They knew. Joseph. We're taking Joseph's bones with us. Taking Joseph's bones out of Egypt because they did not belong there. They have to go back because it all goes back to the first 10 generations. First 10 in Genesis Genesis 5, those first 10. This is your main. This is your, okay? So, and another reason is Moses could not lead them to the promised land because it's a pattern that would have been repeated. And had Moses led them into the promised land, that means that today the Jews would have went to the promised land on the books of Moses and not on the Messiah, not on the Son of God. Okay? Because again, it's patterns. So why that was so important when I talked about that leadership going over to Joshua, and Mary, Jesus' mother, called him. How come I can't ever remember that? What, it's I do this every time because I cannot. That's just one of those words I can hardly remember. Yehoshua. She called him Yehoshua, and that's a form of Joshua too. Okay, Yehoshua. So Joshua, who represents Jesus in that, he had to take to the Israelites, he had to be the one to lead them into the promised land, because Jesus will be the one that will lead them into the promised land. See, that pattern had to stay specific. Okay? The whole Bible's like this. Okay? And there's just so many reasons for things that if we look really closely, you can see it. But again, it's because of how we've been taught by those that he's yelling at in Matthew 23. And he's telling us exactly what's going on. But we're too blind. And he keeps saying, how blind are you? How blind are you? How blind are you? You're making them more crippled than they were before you taught them. He says you're going from land to land and teaching the law and teaching all this, but you're just doing more damage than you could even imagine. Because it's how they're teaching. And I'm telling you, it's the interpretation. And it's that of it. And so it's just right there. So through the Old Testament, again, it was these side changes that the Lord would, when he needed to use whoever he had to use, and he would change their names. And that's why he changed their names. Okay? Abram to Abraham. He became a tent dweller, didn't he? He did. Tent dweller. Well, see, Daniel, Belteshazzar. Okay? That's a whole nother thing. And, Daniel, oh, never mind. Saul went to Paul. Okay? And who was Saul? I mean, Saul was a Roman. He was a Jewish Roman, though, right? But remember when his name was changed to Paul, and he was on his way to Rome, or on his way to wherever he was. It may not have been Rome at that time, but it might have been when he was, I don't know wherever he was at preaching, and he stopped to be a tent maker, because he said, my father was a tent maker. So his father was a Roman, but his father was a tent maker. Well, tent makers, you can look at that as either heavenly. What are you doing? dog got caught in the couch because you can't stand. She has to be right here by me. Got caught in the couch. So so his dad was a tent maker. So his dad, well, you can look at that as a spiritual, like supernatural, made the tent dwellings, okay, or he was on the other side where he was on the other side. You know what I'm saying? And he was one that did the threshing, to send the others into the wilderness, into the tents. You know what I'm trying to say? There's just a lot there. Just in that alone, there's so much right there. But you have to have eyes to see it. How many times are you going to read that over and over? But see, we know it's the tent makers. And it's just throughout. Another thing. It's the little bitty words. It's the little bitty things. The little bitty things. When you go down in Matthew and you go down the New Testament and you're looking at the generations from Abraham to Jesus, okay? See, where the key is with David and Solomon. There's a there. I don't know what it is. Something is right between those two. There's something is right there, okay? Because it makes a note that Solomon's mother was Uriah the Hittite, the wife of Uriah. Okay, and so it doesn't say anything about David, but it's just different. Solomon's his mother was the wife of Uriah. Something right there that's different. Okay, it's different. It's just like in Genesis 5 when you go through, and so and so was father of so and so. You know, they were the father. They became a father. They fathered. It was all fathered. And all of a sudden, when they get to Lamech, who was Noah's father, changes. Says, and he had a son. He had a son, totally different than the first 9 above him. Did you catch that? It's different. It's different. This generation shall not pass. See, the whole book is used in different, as we go down, in different timelines. And he reuses the same patterns. He reuses the same numbers, the same things. And this is what he does. All right? But that generation that shall not pass, I'm telling you, that's that first 10. Because they're not dead. The spirits, the spirits that was in them, and I'm not talking about any reincarnation or anything like that, because I don't, none of that. Don't believe in that. But I mean, the Lord, those were, they were different, okay, and they were special. Well, you know how we talk. Well, you know, people just don't live to that 980, you know, something and 777 years anymore. Hello, God was given the age when they would die at the end, because I will tell you again. When you add up all those ages, it's 8,125. That didn't mean anything to me. It didn't mean one thing to me. I just decided to add them up. Why? I don't know. I just decided to add them up. Okay, 8,125. Lord, what am I going to do with this? That don't mean anything to me. I mean, it's like, so I subtracted. Well, what am I going to subtract? I don't know what. I mean, pick any numbers you want to. What are you going to subtract from that? So I subtract 5,776, because that's the Jewish year, and in the Jewish calendar. 2016 is 5,776 years. So I deducted that, and it left me with 2,349. Well, I don't know what that means either. You didn't help me there, because I sure don't know what that is either. You know, Lord, what am I doing here? Because what does that mean? I mean, it's not a number that I know. So I Google it, of course. I Google that number. I Google that number. It's the year of the flood. Really? That's the year of the flood? Really? I mean, after all, really? That's the year of the flood? Year of the flood. So, what does that tell you? What does that tell you? So then I take Adam was 130 when he had Seth. Okay, so I'm going to take those numbers at 130, and Enoch was 65 when he had. So I'll take those numbers. So I add those numbers up, the age that they were. Okay, when they had that specific child, male, that is mentioned there. Okay, that comes to, that was without Noah. Okay, it was not counting Noah being 500 years. It was just everybody but Noah. Came up to 1,056. 1,056. If you do a strong search on that, that's the fat. That's the fatted calves. That's the fat. That's what it means. So, well, what's 1,056? Well, that's the year Noah was born. That's the year Noah was born. If you add up the ages that they were when they had a son, or when they fathered, Adam. I mean, it goes all the way from Adam to Jared to them. Count that one specific age they were when that one specific child was born, up to 1,056. That's the year Noah was born. What's going on here? Did you get me? What's going on here? It's different. Okay, it's different. When Noah was born, Lamech said, "Oh, he'll be the one that will give us rest and relief from the curse of us having to work the land." There's huge clues right there. Okay, you don't want to look at them like that. You don't have to. You can just continue to read it the same way you want to, if you want to understand what's going on here and why these battles ongoing, and why there's such detail in the Bible about these battles, about these kings, about these princes and these kingdoms. Then you understand what this is about. Okay, remember, it's about the throne, the scepter, and it's about the priesthood. But there's two groups. Sometimes God would send one to the other side. Okay? Well, Noah had to go through some water too, didn't he? Yep, he did. A lot of it. See, it's the same thing. Okay? And again, whenever they made these journeys later on, to the United States, coming across the water, when I was talking about in the 1400s, okay, when things started, okay, it was crossing that water into the wilderness again. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But that's what it is. That's what it is. Some of you don't have to agree with me. You don't have to agree with me at all. But go read. And read the story of Joseph. Read the story of his brothers. Then go back to the beginning and read the story as to Lucifer being cast out. I'm telling you, They're brothers. We know that him and Jesus are brothers. It's all from one. They're all from one. They're all from one. The sevenfold spirits. They're the seven churches. Okay, they are the seven seals. It's the seven. Did you ever notice in the Bible? It's 10, like 7. I got 7 brothers. There's specific reasons for those, and the remnant is his remnant. His remnant, the special remnant, is from those from the beginning that were sent out. I don't know how it works. I don't know, but and I don't. And if it but that's what it is. And the 144,000, they are from those 200 that fell. Okay, and remember, every one there's divisions. Okay, just like an army does. They have commanders and divisions, and goes on down and goes on down and goes on down and goes on down. But 70 main fallen. 70. And then there was the 200. Okay, then there's 200. 144 of those did not defile themselves with women, but 56 did. Okay, so those virgins, yeah, it was really, if they didn't defile themselves with the women and with the earthly things. The story, it's the story of the 10 virgins. It's the story of the 10 virgins. It's the story of the landowner that left his servants in charge. And what is that? 72,000 on each side. There were 72,000. You know what I'm saying? So there's 144. But that's who the landowner sent out. Okay, and many of them were deceived too, and they felt defeated, and there's the whole sold into slavery and the whole thing, all of it. It's look at Joseph, but down deep inside, regardless, Joseph was still Joseph. Okay, and even though on the outside he had to look like those that he was enslaved to, he was still Joseph down underneath. And when he removed all of that, he was Joseph. And he loved his brothers, and he forgave them. He left it out. And there was no destruction. Saying there wasn't wars and stuff, but I mean, it's that birthright thing. It's that birthright. Again, it's Cain and Abel all the way. It's Cain and Abel from all the way back. Okay, and Esau and Jacob. Same thing. Same thing. I don't know how to say it any other way, but that's what this is. It's such a phenomenal thing. And again, I'm not going to get into the. I mean, don't get me wrong. Jesus, yeah. I mean, but see, he was back. It was something happened. I don't know what it is, but from him getting baptized, and he was sent to the wilderness. Right. Okay? There's always something there, when that happens. And it's for an exact reason. We have one layer. What we see is just one layer. Okay? But it's so much more. It's for let the Spirit, let those who have sight are hearing, hear what the Spirit is saying on this. This is what these are. These are layers, okay? And so, something, I'm not going to get into, I really shouldn't have talked about it the other night because I'm just really not done with it yet. But something there, something happened, between there and there. Because you have to understand, all these come as, they're all appendages of Him. All, whether you want to believe it or not, they are. They are. It's oh my gosh, the beast too. It's got 10 crowns. The number is exact. Is exact. And he says he's not going to come how he did before. So it's just going to be different. It's going to be different. And when he comes and removes and takes everybody up there, that man in Matthew, they talks about, they says, well, he don't even got his wedding attire on. Watch. That is where I personally believe, I believe this. I believe that is where Judas sets that trap. Okay? And at the time when all this goes, that's how he's going to get him up there. And that goes to the heavens. Okay? That's the shaking. That's the shaking. But that's when the new heavens are made. Okay? That's when in what it says, New Jerusalem comes down like a new bride for the groom. And that is when all that stuff happens. Okay? That's when all that stuff happens. That's when all that happens. But down here, this is man. This is man. This is the enemy. This is man. This isn't what God's going to do. God is only going to do what He has to do. But He's only going to do what glorifies Him. He's not going to do anything. He's not giving the enemy any more time. He's not going to do anything that glorifies the enemy. Okay, so everybody can get ramping everything up about what's going to happen. I don't believe it's going to happen. Because God's going to cut him off. I totally believe God's going to just cut him off. So that's why He says there's always going to be wars and rumors of wars. There's always going to be them. Okay? But what the one He's talking about, it's the angelic war. It is angelic. So, anyway, go and look at the stories. Go and read. That's what they're there for. That is what they're there for. Okay? They're first, so we can see the patterns. So we can see what this is. Remember, He's talking about the Lord of hosts. The Lord of hosts is the Lord of the heavenly host, the angels. All right? It is the witnesses. The witnesses. It's the hands and the feet. It's the scribes and the prophets. Those were. It's the words that are written. It's the hands and the feet, which is His armies. But it's the hands that wrote the words, and it's the feet that carried the word. Okay, it's and they're trampled on. Okay, they're trampled on. Watch and see, though. Just watch and see, because there's no temple here. There's not going to be a temple here because I don't believe I will say this. I don't believe there's going to be a temple here. I absolutely do not believe it, because we're the temple. We are the temple. We're the temple. Okay, we are it. Now, that's why it's our heart. It's our heart. There's 4 chambers, 4 archangels. Chambers of our hearts, 4. Inside is the temple. Inside is the light. Inside is heaven. Inside of us, the eternal. This is made from heaven. This is what God's knitted. This is what God's made. The inside is all heaven. It's our temple. It's God's temple. Okay? And it's It's built and covered to be protected. But our whole structure, our whole dome to God's temple is our bones. Okay? It's armies. Okay? It's our bones, though. And so the bones, in order to be those pillars and to be those protectors and to keep God's temple, safe, the bones had to cover themselves with flesh. Right? Clay, flesh. So the bones themselves had to cover themselves in flesh. So when they go through the fire, it's for burning. It's for burning. Burning off the flesh, the dross. But they still have their spirit inside. And so I just absolutely, that God's going to do something great with that. See, he just, oh my gosh. If I would have got started earlier today, I would have done another video. But I've been babysitting since early this morning. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'll be honest with you. I am absolutely exhausted. My heart is just so full. My chest is so full. It's just so full. It's just so amazing. So amazing. There's times I get where I can't breathe, and I'm like, Lord, I'm so overwhelmed with this. Let me take some deep breaths, Let me take some deep breaths. Don't stop, but let me take some deep breaths. So there's a reason. Absolutely everything. And he says, don't judge. Don't judge because you don't know. Well, we don't know. And here the blind is the righteous. Okay? That's who the blind is. And that's who the deaf is. Who think they know the word of God. That's the deaf and the blind. Deaf and blind. It's just going and saying, Lord, you just be my teacher. I'm not gonna come to you with what so and so told me, and what this person told me, and what that pastor told me, what that one told me, and this one told me, what all that. I'm coming to you, and I want you to teach me. So you have to go there with that pure, childlike heart, because if you don't, and this is when truly the Son of God within us, okay, because that is the Son of God, is the Holy Spirit. Okay, the Holy Spirit. And that is our teacher. That is our teacher. He can't teach. She can't teach. He can't teach. When there's walls, when there's barriers up, because of our pride, won't allow us to stand like babies. After all this I've learned, and throughout years of, this is what God's word says. It's the Pharisees all over again. I said this for a year and a half. It's the Pharisees all over again. God, you don't care about that. Stop. Go to Him. Go to Him. But see, people are relying on the teachers of man and not the teacher of God. I'm telling you, not Him as the teacher. To rely on what they've learned from man, and it's wrong. It is wrong. Wrong. I don't even know how else to say it. It's wrong. This whole Daniel timeline too. I look at it now and I go, well, who in the world even started teaching this? Because it's right. If you go throughout and you see him talking, you're like, who even taught that? I'm just embarrassed and mortified that I even just stood in that forever. You know what? Remember this, guys. When I say I'm just like you, I'm just like you. Okay? Sleep, same stuff, all of it. All of it. But I'm telling you, anybody with even 2 cents of sense, common sense, can see it. But see, we stand in what we know, so when we go in, you're already weighed down with the teaching of man. It's already your covering. It's already in there. It's already preconceived. So you won't, because you won't let yourself see it any other way. But when you go in there, just clear it out and read it. Unbelievable. It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. It's embarrassing to think, oh my gosh, I can't even believe, because so much of it doesn't even make sense. Makes sense. I mean, as to how everybody's put all these things together. You know, I'm like, well, who even put that together? That don't even make sense. But see, we believe them because we think they're teachers. We think they know more than we do, and we think, well, you know, they've been doing this. No. You have to go to him, and that's when he will show you and teach you. He's got to breathe on it. He has to breathe on the word. There's words, but the words were written. They're written by men, and men are not. They're not infallible, you know. And so, unless those stories, unless those words are for everybody, until God blows on them for you to illuminate them, you can't see their true meaning. You can't. So you will continue to read it in the same way over and over and over. Okay? Because you're going in it really against it, because you're going in what man has taught you. Okay? And so you're not fully letting the walls down. You're not fully letting, him teach you. Let the Holy Spirit just rule. Okay? You're bringing man in there, and you can't do that. You cannot do it. You can't do it. So you got to go in. It's like a wet noodle. It's just going like a wet noodle. Lord, here I am. Just okay, Lord. I'm just you. Teach me, Lord. Teach me, Lord. And then he'll breathe on it. You should almost go like a wet noodle. That's what you gotta do. So that's unbelievable. I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to say it anymore. This story after story after story after story will play out, and you'll be able to see it, just like Joseph, just like Moses, just like them all. I could go on and on and on and on and on, but why? You get the gist of what I'm saying. Anyway, it's exact and it's precise. Okay, and again, I know the world's all waiting for that because it's Enoch's calendar. Okay, and it's 10 days behind ours, but he has a connecting the dots of this time, from Passover to Tabernacles to Passover to Tabernacles. Again, who knew? But who knew that his 49 days was going to be 49 weeks? And I absolutely believe now that judgment we were waiting for, because it was due the enemy for the unrepentant sin. Okay, and it was we were waiting for the enemy because he was allowed to proceed with his judgment. Okay, and that was the last thing. That's all we were waiting for. That was the only thing he was allowed. And then after that would be God. God's comes in natural disasters. Okay, that's what God's is, natural disasters. All this other stuff that's coming up, this is all from man, just from the enemy putting it out there, putting it out there, putting it out there. It's not from God, it's from man. Okay, so this now though that I have clear sight on this, I think that it's that finishing out of that 77 weeks of Lamech. Okay, because he killed Cain, and he said if Cain's punishment is sevenfold, mine will be 77-fold. And see, it's these 77 weeks from April 15th, 2014, when that first tetrad, right, until like September 30th is September 29th, or anywhere from like 28th, 29th, 30th. But that's the end of those 77 weeks. That's the end of that judgment. But that's when his time is up. That's when his 77 weeks are up. And that's what that is. That's what that is. Who knew? Who knew? See, I believe 2014 was that time, you know, but we had that to finish that judgment against man, which was Lamech, and that 77 weeks. See, there's so much right in there, especially right in the beginning. So much right there. It's got to catch those little bitty words. Got to catch those little bitty words. But I think I do. I think the enemy gets up there, and I think that that's when he gets into the Holy of Holies, and then in the it's just all of that. I think that's up there personally. I mean, I can be wrong, totally wrong, but I mean, I think that's where that happens, and I think that's when God's gonna, and it's the creation redo, and that's when the new heaven, and new earth will be done. So, yeah, this we're at the end here. We, you know, we thought we were the I think we're the last. I think we're the last. You know, the remnant. So, who, you know, and you have to look what spirit the Lord has given each of us. So we don't know. I mean, we're all in different groups. You know what I mean? But see, we're born with both. It's our flesh. I mean, it's our spirit and our flesh is what it is. And that's the enemy that's always in us, because it's this. And so that's why he always whispers in our ear. It's almost like the shadow. It's almost like your shadow. Okay, look at that. Almost look at your shadow. Okay, and I think that's why there's no shadows in heaven. And it's an obstacle course. But who got these two sides? I said this before. It's their job to get us home. All right. And when God has to send in special ops, he sends them in. And if we get into the world is there to distract us, to want us to want more of the world, because the more we're in the world, the more we have of the world, the more we want. It's just that much more time taken away from him. Okay, the more shiny, you know, pretty bubbles that we go popping, well, that's time more away from him. And so the Lord says, well, we're just going to have to pop all them bubbles, okay? Because, you know, we're going to have to pop all them bubbles, because they're just not getting it. So I'm going to have to just really put smack on them. And so that's why things in our life happen like they do. And he sends us to the wilderness. Because it's just getting us back on the path. Okay? And he knows how this works. It's not until, you know, you cannot reconcile back to him. Okay? Because you cannot see his miracles in your life. You cannot see what he does for you in his life until you are all broken. That's just the way it is. Just how we do, you know. And he knows that. And he puts us back together. He makes us depend on him. Because that's what has to be to get there. Okay? It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. And to get us to remember, the world is put in front of us to make us forget. So everything that we go chasing in the world is meant to make us forget. So, and think about that. You know that when you were involved in the world, that's less time we have for him. That's less time we have for his teaching and learning. So this is why I said you can't be in both. Because then, see, you'll never have that blown on. Okay? You'll never know it. You can't. Because this takes too much attention. You know, it's just the way it is. So, we want him to on the word for us. And that's when it's illuminated. And that's when you can see those layers. And that is what happens to so many people because God just he just removes those scales. You know, it's the greatest thing ever, but it's very overwhelming. And then you're standing up to the world. Standing up to the world. You know, I just got through a big battle with family. You know, and that's another thing is I put another video, and I really didn't want to do that because I love them. I love my sister. I love my brother. I do. But they don't understand, and I cannot. I can't change them. I can't make them do anything. But I will not allow them to. It's just repetitive, and it just takes my time away from the Lord, arguing with them or trying to do it because they can't see it, and they can't, and they don't know it. So you can't get anywhere because they don't know it. Okay, so they just think that again, if they can't see it, it must be wrong. Because surely the Lord would let them see it if He's allowed me to see it. And so it's a redundant thing, and it doesn't help, and it's not gonna, and I just am not getting pulled into that. And I miss them terribly, but I cannot make them see. I can't. And what they don't realize is they both of them have one half of them, one big old foot in the world, and so. And they don't they don't work. It's the cobwebs is really what it is. It's the cobwebs. I think it's the what coulda, shoulda, woulda, been in my life. That my life should have been this, and I should have been that, and I could have been that, and if only I could have and would have and should have. And that's what they live in, I believe. And so that adds to the pride side of what they know with God. You know what I mean? And so they're not going to go there, They're not going to admit that they need to go to him just like a wet noodle. Never do that. So I'm just not going to go there and do that. I love them. I really, really do. But it breaks my heart. It just breaks my heart. But again, I won't let them patronize me either. And plus, I'm the baby of 9, so I'm the baby. You know what I mean? The baby's always the baby. And so it's been a battle, but it's all right. It's all right. But I just didn't like having to do that. I had to go there on some things. So, but go back and read the stories. Read Elijah before he was taken across that water. Unbelievable. Please go back and really truly read Revelations. Revelation. It's a revelation. Okay? What's John is being seen is from the beginning. Okay? It's stuff that's already happened too. Why in the world do we only think that it's just in our time now in the future? No. So much as what he's seen has already happened. How come we never saw that? Ever saw that. So I'm gonna go back really quick though. It's the crossing. It was the crossing of the water. It was the crossing of the sea. It was the United States becoming this nation. Okay, that was the whole game changer. That was the game changer. All right. But when I went, because it all goes with the the Revolutionary War, the signing of the Constitution, the whole thing, plus the other things going around the world. But this was your because Christopher Columbus, he it was over the Jewish persecution in Spain, okay, and they were bringing so many Jews to they were to a new land. They were being tortured horribly, horribly, horribly. But when I went, we talk about the 144,000 because that's the 144,000 out of the 200. That's what it is. When I went and looked at the see how many signed the Constitution of the United States, 56. 56 really? 144 plus 56 is 200. It was the ones that came with the new nation, starting the new nations. Because in the Bible, that's who God. When God's talking about nations and kingdoms, okay, it's also spiritual. It's from his. It's angelic. It's the angelic spirits, the angelic rulers who rule because they are the kingdoms. Okay, they're on the sides. All right. Specifics I can't anyway. And you guys don't believe me? That's okay. File it. But this time, we're in his very last of it. We're in his very last. We are. So, yeah, it's such an angelic thing. Oh my gosh. Anyway, we're just waiting. You know, everything has to fall exactly by his pattern, by his pattern, by his pattern, by his pattern. And they are just all right there lined up. It's such an amazing time, such an amazing time. I just have to be ready because I don't know. We just have to absolutely be ready every night and every day, every night and every day. He follows patterns. And Wednesday's child is full of woe. Remember that. Wednesday's child is full of woe. Okay, love you guys. See you up there. Bye.